Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships are Bermudan and British Registry.
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
And I think first and foremost, learning different sides of the ball and different positions, it really does make you a better coach. You really get to see things through a different lens and perspective that you otherwise wouldn't. So from that perspective, we definitely recommend it. But then there's the real world of the job market and career advancement. And when you are hyper-focused on a position, whether it be running backs or tight ends or DBs, your windows are far more limited when you're trying to advance your career, especially these younger coaches that just have a passion for the game and believe they're good coaches. We really try and open their eyes to the fact that you want to open as many doors for yourself as possible and be able to show you can coach a variety of positions.
Coaching careers are built on relationships, preparation, and knowing the right opportunities before they happen. But for years, getting hired in football has been all about who you know until now. Today, we're excited to start our partnership with Coach Portal, a platform designed to revolutionize how coaches find jobs and get noticed. Each week on the podcast, you'll now hear The Next Move presented by Coach Portal. Quick-hitting, actionable career tips to help coaches grow, advance, and take control of their careers. To launch this series, we're joined by Kevin Abrams, co-founder of Coach Portal and a coach with experience at Indiana State, Vanderbilt, Buffalo, and Illinois. Kevin knows the challenges of the coaching job market firsthand, and today we'll break down the biggest mistakes coaches make in their job search, why networking and visibility matter more than ever, and how Coach Portal is helping coaches stay ahead of the game. If you're serious about moving up in the coaching profession, this episode and Coach Portal is for you.
It's winter, and you can now get almost anything you need for the coldest months of the year delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a ski slope delivered, but you can get dish soap delivered. Sunshine, that's a no. But a bottle of wine, that's a yes. A snow angel, sorry, no. But angel hair pasta, Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Kevin, I'm excited to have you join us here today. I definitely want to talk about the journey that's led you to this, to something I think is really needed by the coaching community. So thank you for taking the time, and I'm definitely excited about the partnership we have with Coach Portal.
Likewise, and thank you for having me.
So Kevin, let's talk a little bit about the journey first. You have a unique career path with what you're doing now. Went from Illinois to Buffalo to Vanderbilt and Indiana State, and now in the finance world. But you spent that time as a coach. You played, you're a coach. What was it that drew you to coaching?
Yeah, I was maybe more common than maybe the outside world likes to think, but I was the kid that at 6 and 7 years old was drawing plays in a playbook. And I think to this day, my mom still has that playbook from 3rd grade. And coaching was always one of the passions for me. It was a matter of when, not if, I was getting into coaching. And so I think my love for the game and coaching in particular evolved over time, where it really started with the strategy, the X's and O's, the competition. And that really kind of plays into my job now in business and investing. But the strategy has really been the first and foremost passion. And then after that, as we all know, it becomes about the people and about helping others and the relationships that you develop. And that's also really grown. And even when I'm not coaching to this day, those are lifelong relationships that I still love to help and add value to.
Man, I have a similar story, and it brought back memories when you talked about, drawing up those playbooks when you were young. I can remember one of my Christmas gifts, got a football helmet. I remember just sitting in the corner of the family room by the Christmas tree there with a piece of paper, drawing up plays. I think it was like 6 years old. And that's where the passion started with me too. My dad was a coach, and, all those things, right? That was just a path for me to do what I was doing. Obviously, I've transitioned into different things, stay close to the game now, but just like you, everything's rooted in not just the playing side, but coaching.
Yeah. And for me, there's kind of these parallel worlds that ironically, and we'll talk about this with Coach Portal, have kind of found an intersection, because I had a father that was in business, and I was put to bed at night hearing about the stock market strategy and the next real estate investment. And so you have kind of this dichotomy of passions that I grew up with, where I was all in on football, but then really being raised in business. And then it kind of comes to an intersection here with Coach Portal, which has been really fun.
So taking a look back at your experience as a coach at, multiple levels of college football, how did those roles really, I guess, help you understand the job market, right? That where things are at and where they need to go. And obviously which sparks the development of Coach Portal.
Yeah. So my journey started as a student coach, and this was really kind of before student coaching became as common as it is today. I went through the interview process as a 17-year-old that was flown out to Texas and the University of Illinois and was interviewed as a senior in high school by those staffs for student coaching positions. And to put it frankly, the University of Illinois with that staff believed in me and put a really good offer on the table. And so I went to the University of Illinois for undergrad because I was offered essentially a undergrad coaching position. And so I experienced that tension, that interview really early in my career to even get me in the door. I didn't have a lot of accolades, or I wasn't a big time high school player. I was D3 caliber at the best. And I really got a head start in that industry. And as my career developed, I really kind of became the Swiss Army knife for a staff. I started off on the defensive side of the ball, then a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, always loved special teams, was kind of the head coach's right-hand man in many respects for the special teams because they really coached the whole team. And each step of the way, whether it be at Illinois or Buffalo or Vanderbilt, I got to see so many different positions on staff and how the entire organization connects with each other and how the hiring process for each of those positions might be similar or different. And so my experience as that kind of utility man, I think really helps me understand the job market versus somebody that has had such a focused track on one position throughout their entire career.
When you look just at a young person getting into this profession, how important do you feel it is to have that mentality that you're going to be a Swiss Army knife versus early on, diving into just one thing about coaching, whether that's, I'm just going to be an offensive line coach or linebacker coach or whatever?
I think there's two sides of the coin. I think there's the first side of the coin, which is becoming a better coach. And I think first and foremost, learning different sides of the ball and different positions, it really does make you a better coach. You really get to see things through a different lens and perspective that you otherwise wouldn't. So from that perspective, we definitely recommend it. But then there's the real world of the job market and career advancement. And when you are hyper-focused on a position, whether it be running backs or tight ends or DBs, your windows are far more limited when you're trying to advance your career, especially these younger coaches that just have a passion for the game and believe they're good coaches. We really try and open their eyes to the fact that you want to open as many doors for yourself as possible and be able to show you can coach a variety of positions. And I've worked for several coaches that have the philosophy that if you're a good ball coach, you're a good ball coach, and you can figure it out, whether it's tight ends or linebackers. And especially at that young age, when you're in those analyst, graduate assistant roles, entry-level roles, it's an amazing time to learn those different positions.
Looking back at your time there, obviously you start to see guys, you're a student coach, you see guys at different points in their profession. What do you feel were some of the things you thought were maybe mistakes in how guys were approaching advancing themselves in the coaching profession?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is each coach really approaches the job market differently, and as they should. They each have their own kind of genuine style, their communication, and what's comfortable for them. I think the networking piece is always critical, but it's one thing to meet somebody and it's another to truly cultivate a relationship that isn't just about getting the scoop and getting a job. I think that's something that's critically important. And this is partly why Coach Portal even exists. The biggest mistake that I think coaches of all ages and experiences make is they don't have an honest, third-party, trusted coach that they can really go to for advice about their career. They don't have many people where they can let their guard down and say, is this a stupid move for me? Am I thinking about this the right way? And again, this kind of wraps into when I stepped away from coaching, I was flattered because a lot of my friends in the business were calling me for advice like that. And it showed me that they don't really have as many resources that they can truly trust as we may all like to believe. There's the head coach assistant dynamic, which is always difficult. There's colleagues that are competing for similar positions. So Coach Portal really gives coaches that resource, and they can ask us questions without recourse, be brutally honest, and we will be brutally honest with them, and give them maybe a new way of looking at it. And I think that coaches really should be more open to getting feedback on their career. And I see a lot of coaches, especially older coaches, that still just do it the same old way and hope for a different result in some respects. So we're all about brutally honest, transparent, and objective feedback for these coaches. And we really think it adds a lot of value just to brainstorm, if nothing else.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on the mentorship side of things and having somebody and that helps you build a network too. And, thinking about how the coach search has evolved over time. And we go back to the beginning of Football Scoop, still love Football Scoops, but Football Scoop was like, here it is, guys, like this is what's coming down the pike. And because a lot of the jobs by the time now that they're out there, that this is open, they're filled. Somebody's already been considered or reached out or, connected with them. And, at the time, there was that gap where that was like for getting ahead of the game. Football Scoop could do that for you. Now, their stuff is happening so fast that that's not necessarily the same function of them anymore. Still very valuable website, but how do you position yourself thinking about like networking, visibility, position yourself that when some of these jobs are open, that maybe your name's in the mix right away, that, because a lot of times if you are applying, it's too late, right? So how do you get yourself out ahead of that?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head, but forgive me because I'm going to double click on it a little bit. Football Scoop, like you said, is great. It's evolved over time. I remember when Football Scoop was a true rumor mill, and you could use that information to anticipate an opening or backfill and all that, play that game. And honestly, that was a really fun game to play. And it's evolved, and that's great. They do a great job with their business. And then you have job boards, and everyone that creates a job board does so with the appropriate intentions. But what I think we've found is that job boards don't do the job, and they don't stay updated, and they're not legitimate. I've sat in those staff meetings where we've told our HR department, don't post the job until it's already filled. That's the world we live in. And so part of the reason why Coach Portal exists is because we need more transparency. We need more real-time data, and it's going to need to be in a marketplace setting. And what's interesting to me from a business perspective is that coaching has not caught up to the fact that a marketplace is needed. A centralized database is needed in order for that up-to-date information to flow and truly provide value. The example I use to our athletic directors and head coaches that we were working with on the hiring side is this is Zillow for coaches. You don't go on to Residential Home Scoop to see 4 to 8 week old transactions. You will go onto Zillow to search for a 3-bedroom house with a backyard and a pool, and you see what's available and you look at the specs. This is no different, but now it is a platform where the hiring side can go onto Coach Portal and use their custom filters and find their offensive coordinator with 5 to 10 years of experience with an expertise in quarterback play in the state of Georgia. Click search, and there are their candidates. And they can really find who they want to find. And the name of the game is finding coaches and coaches getting found. And I think there have been a lot of frustrations on both sides of the equation because coaches feel like they're qualified and they're maybe a good fit, but nobody's looking. And then on the converse, and maybe something that I think the industry doesn't talk enough about that we've received with our feedback, is the hiring side is frustrated too. They're frustrated that they're limited to their own network and that maybe within their network, they don't have a great fit for that open position. And they're foaming at the mouth for a centralized database to be able to go through a real hiring process, really vet some good, high quality candidates that can be a fit for them. And each situation is different. I mean, heck, you have head coaches that are 50 years old that get an FCS job, and most of their contacts aren't 25 or 30-year-olds that are really the right fit for maybe an assistant coaching job at an FCS school. It's 55-year-olds that are coaching at the G5 and power conference level. And so more than people think, those head coaches struggle to find guys that they know they're comfortable with. And we're trying to help with that and show the network and the endorsements, which I can speak to in a bit. But that's really where I think the coaching market needs to level up and have real-time, transparent access for both sides of the equation.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Yeah, and we're definitely talking about this going all the way down to the high school level. Just went through with one of my former players who was able to get a high school job here locally. But when I looked at what was their process, like that was the same process I was going through like 20, some years ago, that it hasn't changed yet. We have all these things at our fingertips to help us out. And I think people just don't take advantage of them. We've seen, you look at just the past, you could say 10 years, it's probably been 5. I think the pandemic just accelerated everything, right? But the trends you see, not just at the biggest levels, but even down at the high school level, the trends in hiring that you see, what are some of those things that, you see really evolving a lot from what they were 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think if we want to kind of hone in on the high school level, the trend is not a good trend. And that's what we're trying to change. When we really floated this out to the hiring side early on in the process, we spoke to athletic directors and head coaches that were filling their staffs. The process and the feedback we got from them with how they source candidates, no offense to anyone that we spoke to, it was embarrassing and really disappointing. It was disappointing as a coach that I'm hearing from athletic directors that they're asking if a player's cousin used to play football and still lives in town in order to fill their linebacker job. If that all-conference player that they had at that high school a few years ago is still close by and maybe they can be the offensive coordinator. And I'm sitting here just off the top of my head, I know half a dozen coaches that would want those jobs. And you're saying we can't connect the dots and give these schools and better candidates that are willing and desire those positions. And so unfortunately, I think the trend is that the hiring side still struggles to be able to source a number of candidates and are utilizing those same word of mouth methods that we all know have really been leaned on for the past 10 to 20 years. And I think we're trying to disrupt that and really give people the opportunity they deserve, give programs better quality coaches. Ultimately, that's going to put a better product on the field for the kids, for the schools, and advance their careers. Because we know when you build a great staff around you, your team does better and everyone's career advances. But when you hire guys that don't fit, it's a big headwind. It weighs you down and careers stay stagnant. So we're trying to really add value across the board
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Whether it's the athletic director making sure they get the right fit for that head coaching job, or the head coach, like I mentioned, my former player's going through it right now. And my advice to him was like, do not rush this. Like,
Yes.
you need to get this right. This is for you, your first head coaching job. This is make it or break it in doing this. So I love that you use Zillow as a comparison, because I think that makes this very tangible in that we can start to say, these are the things I'm looking for. Yeah. And then through Coach Portal, have that list of people that now you can start digging into a little bit more. And this is not the digital version of the bulletin boards, which I can't believe are still at AFCA in the lobby. And people still are putting their resumes up there. I can honestly say I've seen people put resumes up. I can't say that I've seen anybody pulling them off of there that much, especially anymore. So this is not that. This is so much more in the way that it works dynamically to help the person searching for someone, but also help that person searching for a job and looking for new opportunities. We'd love to hear, those pain points that Coach Portal solves and how this has all been put together.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting is we were very intentional to not be a job board or not be a resume board. The key features here are a centralized database, the search engine, and being able, to your point, identify characteristics that you're looking for in a coach, and being able to then see their qualifications and their resume in a accessible way. I mean, we all know those coaches that move heaven and earth to just get their resume on the desk. And it shouldn't be that hard for coaches to get their resume seen. Now, we're not here to micromanage the hiring process. Each coach has their own process, and we want to empower them to do that, but we want to give them access to the candidates. And then what maybe warrants a little bit further explanation is the activity feed. And the activity feed is really where we're all going to see the real-time movement. So if a coach moves from one high school to another for a new position, that coach's profile automatically generates to the top of the activity feed when they change it on their profile. So everyone in the platform, through a user updated database, can see real-time movement, and then will be able to see, hey, Coach Johnson moved from high school X to high school Y. It will be highlighted. It will show all of the coaches, hey, Coach Johnson changes their job status from not actively looking to actively looking. Hey, if I'm a hiring head coach, it's nice to know I've been kind of keeping my eye on Coach Johnson. He's open to a new opportunity right now. And that's where you're really going to see the movement within the market and add value to these coaches and the hiring side as well. And then we have kind of what we call the favorites, where you can favorite coaches and keep an eye on them. And as soon as they maybe change something on their profile, you'll get an email notification. That can be on the hiring side, or it can be, hey, coach, your job is the job I want. As soon as you leave that job, I would like to know about it so that I can try and backfill. These are all the powers and the tools in Coach Portal's toolbox that we've lived firsthand. I wish I knew that job was open, but I didn't. And it was only too late for when it was on Football Scoop 4 to 8 weeks later. And that's a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish here. And what we're also trying to accomplish too is we're football coaches. Are we the best sitting at a desk in a sterile environment getting asked questions for an interview? Like, first of all, that's not where we're at our best. And I've worked with countless head coaches that are really bad at doing that. They're bad as an interviewer. They don't ask the right questions. They don't analyze it properly. So an exciting thing that we're working towards with our profile for kind of some new features is we're going to give these coaches the ability to upload content that sincerely shows them as a coach, whether it's them in their meeting room, on the field, speaking to their players. These are all things that what you really need to see, a coach's body language, his passion on the field, not just some X's and O's on a whiteboard and hearing about your story sitting at a desk in an office. As they say, a picture says 1,000 words. Hopefully a video that somebody uploads to show their passion on the field shows even more. And that's really what we want coaches to be able to get out there and really show their true selves so that they get the best opportunity they can and that they deserve.
Yeah, I think as I look at the application of this, the uses for the coach, whatever level you're at, I think is huge. I think let's talk about like the head high school coach. I think a great example, you have these programs that have the same guys forever, and that gives them consistency. And then you have other programs that maintain consistency, I believe, because maybe they do turn over coaches because coaches are elevated out of their program, but they get the guy in who's the right fit. And the head coach understands what that fit is. The guy coming in understands what that fit is. And I think prime example of that would be Nick Saban. You look at him. He did not have the same guys all the way through his tenure. They were changing a lot of them every couple years, but still had the right fit coming in. And I think that's what this kind of technology allows you to do. If I was a head coach right now, not looking to replace my guys, but saying, I know this guy's going to be ready soon to move on and be a head coach somewhere, I'd start researching marketing and have who's up next, right?
Exactly.
Who's the next guy in this mix, and then be able to reach out to them when that time comes. I think having those things at your fingertips right now really helps you build and maintain the success of a program.
Yeah. And you know what? Being a head coach is a lonely spot to be sometimes. And in many respects, it's the spot that's most difficult to be able to find people to truly be a sounding board with. And we're working with a head coach right now that has had good success at their program, but they've come to us and want some of our personalized services and one-on-one consultation. And they've said to me, we want to start to look at this differently. We've done it the same way for 5 or 6 years and we've got solid results, but now we need a fresh set of eyes and we want to maybe see what we can change to level up. Do we want to revamp everything? Absolutely not. Do we have a defensive coordinator opening that we think is a good opportunity for us to change and for the better in maybe a way that we haven't in the past while keeping and maintaining the culture and the structure of the program? Absolutely. And so when you have a head coach that is self-aware enough to look in the mirror and say, I need to talk this out, I need to think this through, I'm open to new strategies and a new way of doing things, it's incredibly rewarding for us. It's really fun for us. And those are the coaches that we really think take the biggest leap and get the most value out of this. And I completely agree with you. It's an opportunity for them to move away from maybe what they've done in the past because maybe they have access to those coaches that they otherwise didn't in the past. Use Nick Saban as an example. I mean, the famous pivotal point in that program's trajectory was when they hired Lane Kiffin and really started to make changes on the offense within the program that Nick Saban built. And so we're seeing that across the board and head coaches that want to do that. And a lot of them up until this point frustrated that they couldn't do that because they couldn't find the right guy.
Yeah, I think what you're doing and some of the features that you've built in there are just so smart. I say all the time on the podcast, coaches should be out there somehow. You have somebody who's not practicing or you have a student assistant, you're building your portfolio, get your phone out, have them film up some things. One, that I think evaluate your self-coaching, but two, how does somebody get beyond what's in print and black and white about what you do and actually see you coaching? So I think that feature is outstanding. And I think, some of this lends itself to the question, what is the right time to start not necessarily looking for the next job, but maybe preparing yourself for that next job, not just in terms of what you know, but what you're putting out there about you as well.
Yeah. And I think, there's two sides of the coin here. Getting the resume in a position that you feel proud of and that's genuine to you, getting prepared and comfortable with an interview process and your materials ready. That is stuff that for the most part, when you're trying to rush and do that and also going after a job at the same time, it doesn't typically go as well as you would like. So we obviously encourage and work with many coaches that we prepare that proactively ahead of time so that we have those materials in place in the way that you want. And we do mock interviews with guys. We put them through practice. I mean, we are coaches and we preach practice all the time, but you're telling me that when we're trying to advance our careers for our families, we we don't have the humility to go through some mock interviews ourselves so that we become better at it. It's kind of strange to think about. And so we provide that service, and we do that for coaches that want to go through it and they love it. They learn a lot. They get honest feedback from us, and we say to them, hey, you said the right thing, but you didn't really say it with conviction or passion. We know you're passionate about this. Let's hear it. So from that perspective, we really help out. But we also have kind of a resume building partnership that we are in the works on finalizing in the next week or two, so that we can take some things off of coaches' plates. Everyone's busy, and we're here to kind of be a resource in whatever way we can. We have been so appreciative of the feedback of the coaches that have been part of Coach Portal so far. We had a coach a couple months ago that looked at our resume template and the feedback that we gave them and said, honestly, I love your resume. I don't have the ability or time to do it. Can you guys do it for us? And my answer was, well, not right now, but let's get the capabilities. And so that's why we're transitioning into this partnership, so that we can give them first-class, professionally done resumes that fit their genuine personality, their brand per se, and make the impression that they're trying to make. That isn't limited to somebody being particularly good at Visio and designing some fancy resume, or them having time to do it and scrambling. Everyone deserves to put their best foot forward. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what these coaches deserve. And also on the hiring side, we don't want the hiring side to miss a good coach because their resume may not be flashy or authentic to their brand. So all of that is this ecosystem that comes into play that hopefully helps coaches on both sides.
Yeah, I think you bring it out there. When you look at the highest level, and I know some NFL coaches, agents, in what they do, they're doing those mock interviews. The last thing you want as a coach, especially if it's for the first time, is to get your first rep at an interview for a head coaching job actually when it's happening. Like, you need to prepare for those before, and, hear those, not just read through questions, and this is what I would say, but actually go through the process yourself. These agents spend a lot of time and probably resources, money on it. I mean, they'll film those things up, next week at Combine. I know the NFL actually does some of these themselves to get some of the assistant coaches out in front of the rest of the teams. But when you look at that process and what they're doing, and that's the things necessary to elevate themselves in that part of our profession, but it still applies to high school, small college, and all the way up. I think just smart to do. And, I know a lot of these guys, they have their portfolio, maybe not for a job they have now or even in the next move, but they have something that they're designing constantly, putting things into that they like or taking things away. Because as you said, the worst time to start putting that together is when this job is open, you got an interview next week.
Yeah. And trust me, I've learned this the hard way, because I was the coach that I wanted everything to just be about the grind and the performance. I wanted jobs to be gotten based on all conference accolades, wins, performance on the field. And the reality is there are some great coaches out there that still believe that that's all you need. And that's not all you need. You need to have the on-field performance, the accolades, the proof points that you're a great coach, but you gotta be able to present yourself in order for you to get the job, because we all know this, depending on who's on that hiring side, maybe it's an athletic director that isn't a coach, and maybe it's somebody that really needs that head coach to present themselves in a polished way in front of an audience and parents and everything like that. And so I actually remember working for a head coach that after his first year went through a paid training program so that he knew how to present himself, change his posture when he's sitting down, how he communicates, all of that to your point, the top tier agencies do. And these high school coaches and college coaches deserve that service as well. And they deserve to get that practice so they can progress their careers.
Kevin, for our listeners out there, where do they go to sign up for Coach Portal? Tell them a little bit about the product itself and the cost, what they're getting, what they can expect.
Yeah, good. So I'll start by saying this is a completely self-funded endeavor. We're former coaches, my co-founder and me. This is a passion for us. We think that the current structure is broken to a degree. And so we want to make this as affordable and accessible as possible for coaches across the board. Because of that, we did our absolute best to make the price point as low as possible. Right now, it's $2.99 per month. There are 6 free months for our early bird subscription, and everybody gets a free month for every coach they refer. So before you know it, you refer 6 coaches, you're not paying a dime for a year. And that's exactly how we want it. And we're actually hopeful that as we continue to grow, we're able to lower the price point. In a perfect world, this is free for coaches because this is a service that we think should be natural to the job search industry. Coaches want to be found. The hiring side wants to find coaches. That should be part of the game. That should be a given. So we're working towards that. And we also know personally, coaches don't get paid enough. And they certainly don't get paid enough for how much they work and the impact they have on our communities. So the last thing that we want is for this platform to be on the backs of coaches that don't get paid as much as they should. We want them to advance their careers so they can earn more down the line. So that's really where the price point is. We're proud that we have it as low as we do. We hope it gets even lower in the future. And from a registration perspective, our website is www.coach-portal.com. And believe it or not, this early bird subscription that everybody is seeing, the whole reason it exists is because before the database was even open, we had coaches that expressed interest in wanting our personalized services from the start. And so we said, hey, if you guys want to start working with us even before the database is open, we'll give you the opportunity to do that. And we created this early bird subscription so that we can have those one-on-one calls. For the record, every new sign up we reach out to, and we offer a 1-hour consultation, introductory call, where we learn about that coach, their goals, their needs, their situation, and we customize the tools in our toolbox to fit their needs. And that is from how we utilize our network for them. That's how we help them with mock interviews, with resumes, everything in that regard. And so that's really how this has all happened. It's been very organic. And I think that's the way that we want it to be, because the coaching job market has its nuances. It has its challenges that people outside of the coaching world don't fully understand. And so that's really where it all started and how we want to make it accessible as possible.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing everything that you created here and the background behind it and the things you've learned along the way. I'm very excited about this partnership and our weekly Next Move segment, which we'll have on the podcast. And I'll put all the information that Kevin talked about in the show notes so our listeners can get it there. So Kevin, thank you again. And as I said, I'm looking forward to this partnership.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Before we go, a big thank you to our partners who help us bring you the best coaching insights every week. Modern Football Technology, Signature Championship Rings, Titan Sensors, the Headset app, Coach Portal, Go Route, and Vertical Raise. These companies are dedicated to helping coaches like you gain an edge on and off the field. You can find out more about our partners in the 10% Toolkit. The link is in the show notes. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your coaching network. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep making a difference.